Hello everyone, and welcome back to my second video with the little ski lodge. Here we are going to glue down the chimney that I forgot to glue down in last video. I am just using some tacky glue and some super glue to glue it down. Then I have this snow effect. I am putting that on the little Christmas tree we made. And I'm using the same snow effect all around the plate here so that it looks like new fallen snow. It will harden really hard, so that's pretty neat. And just taking my time with getting it all the way around. On the front side here, I decided I want some stones from the door and out, or from outside into the door. So I have these small tiny bit of gravel that I am placing like a little what do you call that, a little road. It's not a road, walkway, a little walkway up to the house. And because I put it into this snow powder, it will stick really nicely in there. I'm just making sure I dab it a tiny bit down into the snow. Then around the house with my snow effect, and I'm making sure that I don't have anything on the rim, just only on the plate itself. I got the little Christmas tree here in a train sales shop where they sell these things for trains and the dioramas for trains. It was a set of 8 trees, so I have enough now because I'm only using one of them and I'm using the smallest one. So I hot glued that in place into the snow, and now I am using again my snow effect here and just popping that on the tree here and there where I like it to be. Then I am going to give the chimney, the top of the chimney, the top of the chimney some of the snow effect as well, as it looks like fallen snow on the chimney. I don't like the pointed thing of the roof here. It's like it's not perfect, so I'm covering all that with snow, and that is actually making the trick for me. So that looks pretty neat. I make a few runners here and there so it looks like it's kind of gently falling down the roof. The edge here on the front of the roof, so I covered that as well on both sides. And then here and there I gave it a tiny bit of snow so it looks like there is small patches of snow. I don't know how to say that, but that is the part of the snow. Just let that dry before you continue. Then I have these furnitures here for the downstairs room, and we're going to do them right now. So the first build is a little kitchen with a sink and a little oven, and I am going to build that together. And first I am making sure that I have all the parts that I need and that I know where they go, and then I'm going to glue them together accordingly to the how-to that you see here next to me. I glued the front piece on first, but you're supposed to glue the back side of the furniture to the kitchen table first, but it worked out in the end anyway. Then I'm gluing on the side pieces here, and I just discovered I glued it on wrongly, so I am going to do that a little different, making sure I do it right. And then I took everything apart and I started over. I wanted to use that little piece for a divider, but that was too big for a divider, so I'm going to pull that out again and then place it in. If I had done it like the how-to said, then it would have been much easier, but again, I did manage to make it anyway. So I'm just gluing the side pieces on here, and then I think I was going to glue the back piece on here. Yeah, I was. And then I kind of discovered that I have to glue this piece here in underneath the sink. It is kind of the bottom part of the sink, so I am placing that one, and almost broke my little table. And now I can glue on the back side. And then this little kitchen table is also done. The two rest pieces, I was first confused about them until I noticed that is going to be a little shelf. So I am going to build that as well. So the little shelf is just made of two pieces that you glue together, one on top of the other, so that's fairly easy. I have these thin pieces of quilling paper that I got from a friend, and they fit exactly here underneath because there's a tiny gap from the front down to where the feet start, so I wanted to kind of hide that, so I placed two pieces of this paper on there like a little skirt underneath, and that fits really nice there. And then I just gonna cut off the excess of that paper when it's all dry again. There's no room in the house for this big shelf, so I cut it in two, and now I am going to make the little faucet, and I am first of all drilling a little tiny very carefully, and then I am taking a piece of this metal wire and bending that into shape. So first of all, I am going to paint everything white, just except from the oven door. There is kind of a little square for the oven door. I'm going to paint that with my metal gunmetal. I think the color is called gunmetal later, so that it looks like it is a little oven door. But everything else is painted white. And I didn't want the little shelf to be in the wood color it is, so I am painting that white as well. Using my gunmetal, I am painting that little piece in that is the oven door. And again, I'm taking my time with this so that I don't make any mistakes. Oh, and I also did the sink in this color. I'm actually doing that later, but I did do the sink as well. And I wanted it to look like there was a stove on top of the oven, so I made this square piece here on the top, again with my metallic gun. And I painted the doors on the cabinet here in the light blue color that we used for the window. I used small silver beads for the dials, the dials for the oven and the stove, and I used the same beads for the handles on the doors. Then I'm taking the little piece of wire that I bent into the faucet and I'm popping it through the hole that I drilled in the table. And I'm gluing it on the inside so that it will stay in place right there where I want it, because I don't want to see the glue. And I used some tiny silver beads for the handles for the faucet so that you can get hot and cold water, and it looks really neat. I gave the oven door a few diagonal lines with white paint to make it look as some shine. I actually like that. I also gave the tabletop a little glaze because I wanted it to be a little more shiny than the rest of the table. And now it is just time to glue that in. On the little shelf I took some hammer beads and I put on some jewelry findings on top of that with some white and some black sanding to mimic some kind of flower or something standing on the shelf. So again, I'm just popping on my glue and I am gluing that in here over the countertop, or the tabletop countertop, I think that's the right word, and placing it so it's not too high over the countertop, but it is actually looking pretty neat here, making sure it is straight. And that was the first furniture. And I totally forgot, I took a tiny piece of some fabric and I dipped that in glue, made sure I had glue all over, folded it, and I placed it so that it looks like it is hanging from the little shelf. On to the next project. I have this little wall mounted clock that I want to make. Let's get out all the pieces for this and lay them out so I know what to do and how to do them. So I have a back piece and a middle piece, and I'm going to glue those two pieces together before I paint this piece and the front piece in the color I want it to be in. And I am deciding for the walnut colored brown for this piece. There is also a piece of wire in here and a few small beads. The beads is supposed to go on one end of the wire, as the wire is the piece where you have that that thing that goes forth and back on the clock. I forgot the name of that one. And then of course I had that little piece of translucent plastic that is gonna go between the pieces we just glued together and the front piece. And the little clock device is actually on the paper I will show you later. So the little clock device, or the part where you see what time it is, that is one of these tiny small circles here. So I'm trying to cut it out in a square that is small enough that you don't see it outside the frame of the clock, but so that it's easier to glue in. And then I am trying to make sure it matches up with the front here of the clock. And I was drawing around the circle here on the inside, but that actually didn't help me much, as I didn't cut it out as a circle. So I was fitching around with it until I thought that it was fitting really nicely at the front piece, because I want the plastic over this little piece so that it really looks like a little clock. And I'm just moving it around until I'm happy, and making sure I don't push it too hard into the glue before I'm perfectly happy with where this little dial is going. And then I'm just squeezing it in, and I am going to cut this little wire thing into the length I need, and then I am going to glue the bead into the little cavity there is in the clock, because if the bead is glued in, then everything should stay in place. I glue the little piece of translucent plastic on the front of the clock here, on the back side of the front, and then I'm going to glue these two things on top of the rest of the clock, and that's it for the little clock here. So it's fairly pretty easy build. It's just really tiny, and that did give me a few difficulties, but I think I managed pretty good. And when the glue is all dried, I am going to glue this little clock into this little kitchen living room thing, and I'm placing it here on the wall next to the door. I know it's really hard to see it right now, and then I'm just trying to place it straight so it looks really neat when it's all done. I know it's hard to see, but it's sitting right there in the corner. Here I have the tea shop table and chairs that we are going to put together, and I'm gonna open up here to find the pieces for a little round table and 2 chairs with this nicely rounded back. So I'm just placing the things here so I know what to do, and then I'm just going to start gluing everything together. First the little table stand. They go nicely together. Then I just glue on the cross at the top and glue that around the middle of the table, and I was not really in the center, but I think it is okay. So the little seat, we are first gluing the feet here on the front part of the little feet. The front is the one where you don't have the little notches, because the notches are fitting perfectly in the backrest or the back piece there. So glue that on, wait for the glue to dry, and then you can glue the piece we just made into the back of the chair. After the glue was all dry, I painted everything here with the same blue that I used for windows and doors for the house. And I glued the chair and the table in place. I shouldn't have done that because I am going to make a little couch here, and that is only having space where the tables and the chairs are. So I gently pulled off the chairs and the table when I noticed, to make room for this little double-seated couch. This one was made out of a lot of these pieces, and I noticed 2 of them has the leg parts on there, so that needs to be the front and the back part. And then we have the back part and the cushions, and then a tiny piece for the front piece of the cushion, and I'm just gluing everything together so that it fits pretty okay. And then I'm gonna go and leave that to dry, and I actually think I turned the back piece the wrong way around, but you won't notice anyway when it's all done, so it's fine. I really took my time with putting this little couch together because I wanted all the pieces to line up really neat and nice, but for some reason it was really hard to do that. But anyway, I took my time with this and did it as good as I can do it, and then I left it to dry for around an hour before I continued on the little couch. I took this to my room outside, or out in the back of my house, and I gave this a little spray paint, one of those to lock in everything before you paint, because all these edges of burnt wood would be really hard to cover with paint. This way I only had to paint the little couch 2 or 3 times with this very light blue color that I used for that. This color is made from the blue from the windows and doors with a lot of white mixed in, so it is very pale blue, but it is still blue. And I painted all of this little couch, not the bottom, but all the sides of it with this color until I was really happy, and I left that to dry completely before I continued. I did think about giving this little couch some fabric all over, but I'm really not good at upholstering, so I decided against that and I painted it instead. Here I am using a light blue and a dark blue to make some flowers on the little couch. Very easy pencil flowers. You just dip the pencil down on your material, and then you turn your pencil a tiny bit and dip it and so on all the way around, and then you have a tiny little flower. And I made a few vines and leaves with the green. For the bottom of the couch, you will see that in a bit. I painted the bottom and the legs of the little couch with my walnut brown, just to give it a little more interest to look at, and it is also looking a bit neater this way. And then of course I had to change up the chairs and the couch place because there was no room for the couch in front of the little kitchen table in that first room, so I changed that around. Luckily it didn't leave any marks to take off the little chairs on the table. And that is actually, I think, everything for this video. In the next video I am going to make the chairs for the upstairs, and that is gonna be a little bedroom that we're gonna make there, and then hopefully I am going to be able to make a few details as the last video of this little series for the little ski lodge. That's it for today. Thank you for watching and happy crafting.